Lions News Fan Report presents. In recent years, the Detroit Lions defense has been one of the most discussed and criticized aspects of the team. While the offense has shown signs of growth, especially with Jared Goff establishing himself as the starting quarterback, the defense continues to be a major concern. In particular, the edge rusher position stands out as one of the biggest needs for the franchise. The Lions urgently need a player capable of pressuring the opposing quarterback and, at the same time, reinforcing the run defense. This is where a player who has been frequently mentioned in discussions about the Lions' defensive future comes in, Chase Lundt. But why Lundt? What makes him so special for the Lions? As an edge rusher, he represents a solution for both the present and the future of the team. To understand Lundt's importance, we need to take a closer look at what he represents, his abilities, his style of play, and, of course, how he would fit into Detroit's defensive scheme. Lundt, who comes from the University of Texas, is one of the most complete edge rusher prospects in the 2024 draft class. He's not just an explosive player, but someone who possesses a rare combination of lateral agility, physical strength, and tactical intelligence. These qualities are crucial for the position and are characteristics that the Lions have been seeking for quite some time. While the team has tried to strengthen its defense in previous years through targeted acquisitions and investments in promising players, none have been able to establish a constant presence on the field, especially along the defensive line. The problem is clear. The team simply does not have someone who can make a difference in the running game and, more importantly, in pressuring the opposing quarterback. In 2024, the Lions desperately need an answer to this dilemma. Lundt, with his ability to quickly and powerfully pressure the quarterback, would be a transformative acquisition. What makes Lundt particularly interesting is his ability to dominate the opposing offensive line, especially tackles, who are known to give trouble to the fastest pass rushers. Lundt is a player who possesses a very complete repertoire of pass rush moves. He's not only an explosive speed rusher, but also a master at using fakes and technical movements, which allow him to bypass blocks more efficiently than other players at his position. Another factor that makes Lundt so valuable is his versatility. He's not just a pass rusher. Lundt has also stood out for his ability to defend against the run, which would be an important addition for the Lions. His mobility and ability to adjust to the play make him a constant presence at all points on the field, and if there's one area where the Lions have been inconsistent over the past few years, it's in defending the run, with players like Jalen Carter from Georgia and Will Anderson from Alabama receiving plenty of attention. Lundt has often been an underrated option, but perhaps the one that best fits the style Detroit is seeking for its defense. So, what exactly would the Lions need to do to acquire a talent like Lundt? As we know, the 2024 draft is full of options, and it's possible the team already has other priorities, like acquiring a cornerback or perhaps even a linebacker. However, the edge rusher position is a clear and urgent need. In this sense, the Lions may need to be aggressive and make bold moves to ensure Lundt becomes part of their team. Here comes a very interesting strategic aspect: the possibility of a trade. With the 18th overall pick in the 2024 draft, the Lions are in a relatively good position to secure an impactful player, but to grab Lundt, they would likely need to move up a bit in the draft order. This is where the idea of a trade with the Seattle Seahawks comes into play. Seattle, which has its own quarterback issues, might be interested in a trade that would offer them Hendon Hooker, the quarterback from Tennessee, along with some future picks, such as a second-rounder and maybe even a third-rounder in 2026. This trade would not only benefit the Lions, who would move up in the draft, but it could also open the door for them to select Lundt, or at least ensure they have a real shot at landing him. If he falls to a lower position than expected, the move would be bold, but also full of potential. After all, the Lions aren't just looking for a good player. They're looking for someone who can transform their defense, and Lundt, with all his qualities, would be an extremely valuable addition. His style of play, which combines speed, intelligence, and strength, could provide the Lions with the defensive foundation they need to not just improve but become one of the best defenses in the NFC. Of course, such a move would require the Lions to make some tough decisions. The trade of Hooker would be a way for the franchise to part with a promising quarterback who, in Detroit's current context, might be more useful to another team. This would free up space for Lundt, who would fit perfectly into a defensive scheme that already features some talented players like Aiden Hutchinson, who could form a devastating pass rush duo with Lundt. The pair could bring a new level of intensity to the Lions' defense, making the team more competitive in the NFC North division and perhaps even becoming a force in the national landscape. Lundt would not just be a good player for the present, but a fundamental piece for the Lions' future. This is because, in addition to being an immediate talent, he could also serve as a pillar for the future generations of Detroit's defense. A team's defense, especially in the modern NFL, is built over time, and with players like Lundt, the Lions could not only perform well in the coming years, but also establish themselves as one of the most respected franchises defensively for decades to come. Thinking about the bigger picture, Lundt would be the answer the Lions need to become a legitimate threat in the NFC. The division the Lions play in is not easy, with teams like the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers consistently competing for the top. Therefore, Detroit's defense needs to be not just good, but impenetrable. With Lundt, the Lions wouldn't just gain quality along their defensive lines, but they would also create a defensive mentality, something that has been lacking in past years. The combination of young talent with the experience of older players could transform the Lions' defense into one of the most balanced in the league. Additionally, a defensive line with Lundt and Hutchinson could have a much greater impact than the sum of its parts. Hutchinson, who is known for his ability to create constant pressure on quarterbacks, would greatly benefit from having Lundt alongside him, creating a synergy that could elevate the defense to new heights. The impact of a well-coordinated pass rush isn't just about the number of sacks, but how it affects the opposing quarterback's decision-making, forcing them into rushed decisions that often result in crucial turnovers for the team. At the same time, Lundt could offer something Hutchinson doesn't have yet: more flexibility in movement. While Hutchinson is a dominant player in a straight line, Lundt brings a combination of lateral agility and the ability to quickly move inside the offensive line, making the two players complementary. The opposing offense would have to worry about an extremely dynamic and unpredictable defensive line, which would create more difficulties for quarterbacks facing the Lions. Another key factor is the leadership potential that Lundt would bring to the defense. With a player who is young but already experienced, coming from a high-competition university, he could naturally serve as a leader in the locker room. The Lions have a group of defensive players who, although talented, still lack a strong identity. Lundt, with his intense competitive mentality and focus on teamwork, could be the ideal person to inspire the younger players and raise everyone's level of play around him, with a focus on long-term success. Adding Lundt would clearly indicate that the Lions are thinking about building a team not just for the upcoming playoffs, but to dominate the NFC North for many years. The impact of an edge rusher like Lundt could be the catalyst for a defense that truly defines the future of the franchise. And instead of focusing on short-term plays, the Lions could finally solidify a defensive foundation that sustains the team for decades. Furthermore, Lundt's positive effect wouldn't be limited to just the defense. A strong pass rush directly impacts the offense, as it allows the Lions' offense to operate more aggressively, knowing that the defense will generate more turnovers and field position opportunities. With an improved defense, the offense led by Goff would feel less pressure and more confidence to advance, knowing that the defense wouldn't let the opponents dominate possession. And what do you think? Would Lundt be the missing piece that would finally make the Lions stand out as a solid defense? Or is there another player who might better address Detroit's needs? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to follow Lions News Fan Report for more content about the Detroit Lions and the team's movements in the 2024 draft.